Chapter 212, Breaking Through the Realm. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Zhang Yuochen came in from outside. Holding the Abyss Ancient Sword in his hand, he said, "In that case, I should get rid of you before the young Lord of Poisonous Spider arrives." "You?" Shenfeng quickly turned around, narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "I thought you left." Zhang Yuochen responded, "I was just testing you. I can't believe you weren't able to control yourself and decided to attack. I also can't figure out how you were able to live in the Yuntai suzerain for so long with such a bad temper." "Ha ha." Shenfeng laughed out loud and said, "I admit that I indeed underestimated you. However, do you really think that you can match me? If I'm not mistaken, you haven't even reached the dawn state of the Earth realm, have you?" "So what?" Zhang Yuochen released the space domain quietly. Within a second, he had full control over the space of 100 meters surrounding them. Under the power of the space domain, Zhang Yuochen was able to observe every move of Shenfeng clearly, including his heartbeat and the speed of his breathing. It didn't matter if his heartbeat was slightly faster. Zhang Yuochen would be able to respond with the specific strategy beforehand. When Zhang Yuochen reached the Black Realm, he could fight warriors who were 5 realms higher than him. He was called the 5-realm fighting genius. By reaching the ultimate realm of the Black Realm, it allowed him to increase 1 more realm than other warriors, and he obtained the level of 6-realm fighting genius. In other words, he was able to cross 6 realms in total to confront a warrior who was at the completion of the Earth realm with his cultivation of the initial stage of the Earth realm. Of course, he could only cross 6 realms if he played all of his trump cards. Without utilizing the power of the time and space domain and the heart integrated into sword, he could only cross 5 realms. That equaled him to a warrior at the final state of the Earth realm. The martial cultivation of Shenfeng had already reached the completion of the Earth realm. In addition, he was a 1-realm fighting genius and was able to fight warriors who were 1 realm higher. That means that even if Zhang Yuochen and Huang Yanjun worked together, under normal circumstances they wouldn't be able to withstand 5 of his movements. Right now, Shenfeng was injured. The meridians on his right hand had been destroyed by Blackie and he could only utilize 60% of his power. Zhang Yuochen's biggest advantage was that he possessed the power of the space domain. Once Shenfeng lowered his guard, he had a chance to kill him by quickly using the power of space. In fact, Shenfeng couldn't see both Zhang Yuochen and Huang Yanjun at the same time. He stared at Zhang Yuochen and sneered, "I don't believe that you're merely an internal student of the School of the Martial Market. What are you hiding?" "What do you mean?" Zhang Yuochen asked. "If you're not hiding any secrets, why did the young Lord of Poisonous Spider warn me not to harm you and catch you alive?" Shenfeng said. Zhang Yuochen furrowed his brow and suddenly understood what he meant. "I assume the young Lord of Poisonous Spider guessed that I possess the power of space." Yet he didn't expose the secret to Shenfeng. Instead he demanded that he catch me. Zhang Yuochen's ears moved slightly. When he heard that the evil warriors of the Tarantula Chamber of Commerce were approaching, he knew that he was running out of time. He didn't want to waste any time. He glanced at Huang Yanjun and said, "Let's do it." They attacked almost simultaneously and waved their swords towards Shenfeng. 100 to wind. Huang Yanjun transformed the genuine qi in her body and exploded the power of the wind nature. It affected the spiritual qi floating in the air and started rotating it at high speed, eventually turning into a fierce wind. The wind continued to rotate and transformed into a massive 100-meter vortex. Shortly thereafter the entire temple was shattered by the wind and fell apart. Woo woo. The wind howled and snowflakes flew across the entire sky. Some of the nearby trees had been uprooted by the power of the wind. Activating 100 to wind greatly consumed Huang Yanjun's genuine qi. However, she had no choice but to help Zhang Yuochen with this method. Shenfeng stood in the center of the vortex with his legs firmly on the ground. He could only stabilize his body by transferring his genuine qi into the ground beneath him. He was extremely jealous that although his martial cultivation was far ahead of Zhang Yuochen and Huang Yanjun, He wasn't able to display the vision of heaven and earth because of his insufficient physical quality. Warriors who were able to transform a vision of heaven and earth were basically the three-realm fighting geniuses. Not a lot of two-realm fighting geniuses would be able to do so. Those two-realm fighting geniuses who were able to form a vision of heaven and earth would surely advance and become three-realm fighting genius. Huang Yanjun was a two-realm fighting genius to begin with. Since she had elevated her physical quality, she was only one step away from being a three-realm fighting genius. She was even able to cross three realms and fight warriors who possessed a higher realm. Red Fire Halberd. Shen Feng took his fighting halberd from his back and grasped it tightly in his hand. He swung a circle with the halberd and thrust hard towards Huang Yanjun. Red Fire Halberd was a 6th level genuine martial arms. When Shen Feng transferred his powerful genuine chi to the halberd, all 34 inscriptions were activated. A flame over 10 meters long appeared from the sword. The only way he could take control of the fight was if he destroyed the vision of heaven and earth of the 100 to wind. If he didn't, he would be suppressed by the power of the vision and wouldn't be able to fully wield his abilities. Zhang Yuochen couldn't let Shen Feng win. The moment Shen Feng was about to attack, he slashed his Abyss Ancient Sword towards Shen Feng. Boom! The two of them clashed together in the fierce wind, and they flew back simultaneously. Zhang Yuochen was shocked and whispered to himself, such a powerful force. Zhang Yuochen had displayed his full power while swinging the sword. Yet he was only equal to Shen Feng and even had to retreat back one additional step. Be careful. Shen Feng had been suppressed by the wind power. Also his right arm was disabled, so he only confronted Zhang Yuochen with his left hand, which was holding the halberd. When a right-handed warrior is forced to fight with their left hand, his fighting power will no doubt be greatly affected. He wasn't able to perform most of the abstruse martial arts movements. Shen Feng still gained the upper hand despite being in such poor condition. There was no doubt that Shen Feng possessed the capability to rank in the top 10 of the Yuntai suzerain. While Zhang Yuochen was shocked, Shen Feng was scared. He stared at Zhang Yuochen suspiciously and asked, "You haven't reached the dawn state of the Earth realm?" He was suspicious of Zhang Yuochen's martial cultivation. Instead of reaching the dawn state of the Earth realm, he had already broken through to the medium state of the Earth realm. Otherwise he wouldn't have been able to withstand the move he just made. Save the trash talk. Without hesitation, Zhang Yuochen exploded all the genuine chi in his body and drew the vision of heaven and earth. He yelled out loudly, 100 to fire. Wisps of spiritual fire appeared covering 100 meters. Under the massive power of the wind, the spiritual fire had transformed into snakes, fire clouds and fire waves that surged along with the wind power. The icy, cold and snowy night that had been before instantly began to heat up. The entire sky was illuminated as if there was an enormous fire floating over the mountain. One displays 100 to wind while the other performs 100 to fire. It's definitely a magnificent vision of heaven and earth. An elder of the Tarantula Chamber of Commerce who was standing at the foot of the hill said with surprise. Their warrior who was able to display a vision of heaven and earth was 1 in a million. Such talent was very rare. Having a chance to encounter 2 of these talents in one night amazed the elder significantly. The young lord of Poisonous Spider grasped the machete in one hand, smiled sneeringly and said, "Perhaps they will be a threat to me after another 2 years of practice. They are still too weak now. Shen Feng alone is strong enough to suppress them." Mr. Shen's cultivation is indeed powerful. Since he was able to attack, everything should be okay, said the elder. The young lord of Poisonous Spider raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Well, being cautious never did any harm. Block the area and prevent them from escaping." "Our people have surrounded the entire mountain," as the young master said. "They won't be able to escape." The lord nodded. He looked at the vision of heaven and earth far away, furrowed his brow and said with annoyance, "What's Shen Feng doing? With his ability it should be easy for him to defeat 2 warriors at the dawn state of the Earth realm." Elder Xu, head to the mountain with 2 masters and give him a helping hand. I don't want the fight to last any longer. End it as quickly as you can. The elder raced towards the mountain with two warriors of the Earth realm. Windfire Fireflies. Shen Feng displayed a mid-class spiritual stage martial technique. His red fire halberd glared brightly. It turned into a wisp of fast streamers and pierced towards Zhang Yuochen's chest. They had been fighting for more than 20 moves by now. Shen Feng needed to end the fight as soon as possible and forced him to display his last resort. He was irritated and annoyed and couldn't believe he had spent such a long time contending with a junior and hadn't yet defeated him. Although the martial cultivation of the junior was incomparable with his, he was able to predict every move he made and ward off every attack. When Shen Feng let his guard down, two of the junior's attacks pierced his body and left 2 wounds. After facing Shen Feng's Windfire Fireflies move, Zhang Yuochen retreated backwards and didn't dare to fight him by force. Go to hell. Shen Feng clenched his teeth angrily. He wanted to kill Zhang Yuochen so much he completely forgot what the young Lord of Poisonous Spider had told him. Since he had to capture Zhang Yuochen alive, he held back when he released a palm which allowed Zhang Yuochen to attack him twice in a row. He couldn't obey the Lord's order anymore and decided to kill Zhang Yuochen. When the red fire halberd was about to pierce through Zhang Yuochen's chest, he had no choice but to use the power of space in order to escape from the attack. Although he avoided injuring one of his vital organs, his forearm had been stabbed by the red fire halberd. The attack left a long, deep wound in his arm. Shen Feng swayed his red fire halberd horizontally without giving Zhang Yuochen a second to catch his breath. Zhang Yuochen could only defend himself by cross-blocking his sword. Boom! Zhang Yuochen couldn't take any more and flew back over 10 meters, his chest pounded in pain. Finally he managed to stabilize his body and fell to the ground. Seeing that Zhang Yuochen was hurt, Shen Feng let out a snide noise. He chased behind him at 135 meters per second, placing him in front of Zhang Yuochen within a second. Under the stimulation of such a significant crisis, Zhang Yuochen's potential exploded. There was a slight sound that came from his globula. It made his chi shiver suddenly and expand 10 times larger. The spiritual chi in the earth and heaven converged endlessly towards him. I can't believe I've broken through to the mid-stage of the earth realm in the middle of the fight. He was surprised and happy and wondered why he hadn't used the heart integrated into sword to defeat Shen Feng from the beginning. Now he had a better technique to defeat him. After breaking into a higher realm, the firing mark on Zhang Yuochen's globula had turned brighter, as if there was a flame embedded in it.